Chapter 7. Kate had enough of the depressing news and turned off the radio and listened to her music. After 5 minutes, she decided to go outside and ride Lily. There it was sunshine all morning, not a drop of rain nor a cloud in the sky. To Kate, that was a grand day to go riding. Besides, she didn't know what else to do, and she enjoyed taking rides alone through the woods on Lily. She enjoyed the quiet and listening to the birds in the trees above. Of course, Kate would have much rather been riding with Tahra, but unfortunately that was not an option at that time. Plus, it would give her a chance to seek her sister and see if she could find her. Luckily, her grandmother was also up to riding and loved horses too. Meanwhile, the golden sun began to shine through the dark gray clouds. Even though the sun was now shining, it kept on raining. Beth looked around and saw a faint rainbow begin to get brighter. When the rainbow was really bright, she could see it wasn't an ordinary rainbow. It was a double rainbow. Beth smiled at the beautiful sight and took it as a sign of hope. The rain shifted into nothing more than a light drizzle. It wasn't long before it completely stopped. Beth's gloomy mood was slowly easing with the sight of the marvelous colors of the rainbow still remaining in her mind, even though the rainbow had already slowly faded away. The clock displayed 9 o'clock, and Beth was still in the same traffic she had been 2 hours ago. Just then it began to move a little faster. Finally, Beth chirped aloud, glad that she was getting somewhere more than an inch. The cars were moving at normal speed once again, thankfully. Beth could only wish it would last, and she would be able to get there further. At the sea of paper, Tahra stood up and brushed the sand from her legs. She admired her castle creation. It was 3 feet tall and was decorated with sticks, leaves, and stones that she had found lying on the sand or in the jungle. The early morning air was still a little cold, so she decided she would wait until later to go into the stream. For now, she would have to find something else to do. Robin Hood probably had the same challenge to face some days, but Tahra figured he was able to find something to do as he was always traveling or fighting the sheriff. She sighed, not knowing what she could possibly do on the island until the stream would be warm enough to splash around him. She stared up at the sand castle and let her imagination run loose. Tahra tried to come up with a story for a sand princess living hidden in a mountain of sand to pass the time. In glowing springs, Marietta opened her eyes and took in her surroundings. The walls were bleak, and a beeping was echoing in the room. She saw her father sitting next to the bed she was lying in, and Christina next to him. A weak smile crossed her lips, seeing them there. Her father at once stood up and stated, "I'm glad you are awake. You had me worried." He leaned down and kissed her forehead. "What happened?" she asked. "You passed out from lack of air. I didn't know what else to do, so I drove you to the hospital, and good thing I did. It saved your life. As it turns out, you are extremely allergic to cats. You can be near them, though, if you wear a mask and bring a set of spare clothing to get the cat hair off." Christina cut in, "Go figure, the mighty chief cannot be defeated by any challenge, or mission, or case, except a cat could destroy you." She smirked and Marietta chuckled. It was quite amusing. On the road, Beth had been traveling for the last hour in sunshine and no traffic. As she kept on driving, she spotted something orange in the distance. Coming closer, Beth could see they were orange barriers, representing construction. The cars began to slow down as the 2 lanes switched to 1. "I better not be in this for 2 hours, Beth remarked, believing she likely wouldn't be in it quite so long, but still wary. She hated the traffic not only because it delayed her getting to her destination, but it also caused her mind to drift. Not being in a good mood, having to leave as it was, made awful thoughts and memories pop into her mind. Constantly she tried to chase them away. However, they wouldn't stop. It was bothering her really badly, and being only one in the car made her feel even more alone. With no one to calm her down and tell her Tahra would be all right and home safe soon, tears poured from her eyes. At that exact same moment, Kate rode out Lily into the stables and her grandmother behind her on Crystal. "I'll come riding later," she promised. Kate walked away and went in her house. She checked the time. It was 10:45. It was too early for lunch, but a good time for a snack. She grabbed a quick little something to eat and sat down on the couch. She sat there listening to the silence of the home. The sound of the birds chirping about the latest news and chatting together was the only sound Kate could hear coming in through the open window. Then the birds got quieter, and one bird began to sing a lovely tune. Once the bird finished, another started. To Kate, it seemed as though they were having a talent show to see who the best singer was. Perhaps they actually were. Eventually the birds stopped playing their game and were all chatting about again. "Birds sure are beautiful creatures," spoke her grandmother, and she nodded. "When I was a little older than you, I used to sit and watch them outside the window for hours. It sure was entertaining on a slow day." "Yeah, it is something fun to do," agreed Kate. "Hey, do you want to play a game?" "We can. What did you have in mind?" "I don't know. Either a card game or a board game. Come, let's go look at the game closet and decide. Actually, let's go to the basement and play pool. You know how to play, right?" "Yes, I do. You can wield those rods because they are quite big for you." "I sure can. I use a littler one, which I call baby stick, and I can reach the table with a stool. I'm going to beat you." "Don't be so sure, Kate. I used to be really good at it. That's how Nick got so well. I taught him." "Used to be is the key. Now come on." While this was happening, Beth sat in her car with red eyes. She had got herself to stop crying, but in return left them red from rubbing them and letting so many tears fall. She was still trapped in a line of cars, but it was only one more mile before Beth would turn off the road she was on. As she turned, she looked to where she was stuck in the traffic. As far as she could see, the road was jammed with cars in one lane. "I'm glad I was only in that an hour," Beth said thankfully, using anything she could to make the situation better. It was difficult, and she was struggling to find anything good in this Saturday, so she had to cling to the small things. To lift her spirits more, she softly sang a chipper melody. Meanwhile, at the sea of paper, the sun shone brightly down on Tahra's golden-brown streaks, making them appear blonde. She closed her eyes and pictured a summer morning riding Crystal, watching as her coat shimmered in the golden rays. A breeze blew, and Tahra imagined the silver wind blowing her hair out of her face. She then pictured the sound of hoofsteps. The chirping of the birds soon filled her mind. Tahra reopened her eyes, and her mind returned to where she was. Tahra sighed and wished she was home in the mountains with her family. Wishing she could see Crystal's snow coat, and wishing she could hear the local birds singing for all to hear. She was determined to get home, but didn't know if she would or how she would. Tahra knew she had to keep trying different things and never lose hope. Back in Glowing Springs, Kate and her grandmother were still playing pool. Several times Kate hit the ball wrong and it shot it into the air. "You have quite a strong arm," remarked her grandmother as she leapt out of the way of a flying ball. "Let me help you. Hold the rod level, and when you go to hit, try to hit right in the center. If you hit the bottom of the ball, it causes it to pop into the air." Kate put all her focus on where the stick was aimed on the ball, that she forgot to think about her arm position. The ball went in a different direction than she had intended. "Kate, when you hit the ball, try not to swing your arm out. Keep it straight." She tried again. Her grandmother gently touched her arm and showed her how it went. She went to hit it. Her little arm swung out and caused the rod to send the ball in a different direction. Now conscious of where she was going wrong, she tried again. It worked, and her shots got better. The first game her grandmother won by a landslide. The second time, though, the two of them both got their balls in and were fighting over the 8-ball. Ultimately, it was her grandmother that won. Her grandmother glanced at her watch and informed, "It's 11:30. Maybe we should stop and eat lunch." Kate nodded. "What would you like me to make you?" "I can make myself a sandwich, but thank you," Kate declared. "Wow, you sure grew up fast." "Do you want me to make you one?" "Oh, sweetheart, you don't have to, but if it floats your boat, then go for it." Kate smiled and bounded upstairs. She opened the refrigerator. She pulled out the cheese and the ham. Then she took out 4 slices of bread. Next, she put the cheese and the ham. In return, she got out the mayo and lettuce, as she had forgotten to retrieve them the first time. She took a bit of lettuce and put it in the white porcelain bowl with a blue rim around the top. Using the sprayer tool on the sink, she washed the light green vegetable. Kate completed her absolute favorite sandwich and took a seat at the table to take her first bite. Her grandmother sat down across from her with the identical sandwich. Silence engulfed the room as the two ate. The quiet bothered the little girl, and unpleasant thoughts set in. She felt entirely alone and misunderstood, a feeling she knew well. Her family meant the world to her, but deep down something didn't feel right because she was completely different sometimes. It was as though something was missing, but she couldn't guess what. She was perfectly fine whenever she was with Tahra, but when her sister wasn't there, she felt like she didn't belong. Somehow her role model and sister made everything a million times better. Lately, Tahra's disappearance had really been weighing on poor Kate. Day by day, it got worse, and she wished she could find Tahra even more. At the same time, Beth entered a town near the border of Virginia and West Virginia. A nearby clock began to bong, representing the new hour of noon. Beth pulled into a parking lot of a restaurant. She decided to eat lunch and relax while she ate. As she was eating, it started to downpour. "I did not plan on getting soaked," she mumbled in a complaining way. This was not her day, but Beth wished Nick would have better luck and bring Tahra home today. Just as Beth was going to go out the door, the rain slowed to a drizzle. When Beth got in the car, it started to pour again. "I guess luck has switched over to my side," Beth claimed, cheering up and hoping it would last. She knew the storm could only last so long. The sun was sure to shine again. Speaking of which, the midday sun was presently warm enough to swim in the stream. Tahra walked the trail where the stream was. When she got to the apple, she stopped and picked a really red one. She swiftly ate the juicy apple and cherished the sweetness. Then she walked on until the running water came in view. She dove in the stream excitedly and found the water was still a little cold, but she didn't care. It was still refreshing. Then she wondered about mermaids and how could they stand the water in the winter. Tahra came to the conclusion they didn't mind it, as humans would add layers to keep warm in the winter. Her wild imagination rolled, and she pictured herself as a mermaid as she splashed around. Up and down she went, enjoying the one entertaining thing she could possibly enjoy on this isle. In that time, on the road, Beth passed a sign that said, "Welcome to West Virginia," and the car slowed down. "Not more traffic," Beth grumbled aloud, trying her hardest not to complain. It bothered her so much because she really wanted to get to a phone so she could call her home. And then she would check in and see how her youngest daughter was doing. Plus, she hated not being able to search for Tahra, and the backups weren't making it any easier on her. She longed to know what was going on at the house. However, she did not feel like stopping again to find a phone booth to see if she even had the loose change to activate it to call for a short time. A sigh floated from her as she brought her vehicle to a full stop, a safe distance from the bumper in front of her. She used the jam to her advantage and checked the map to see where her next turn would be. Besides, it also gave her something to focus on and take her mind off of the cloud in her mind. At 1:15, a white pickup truck pulled in the driveway of the Strong house. Kate ran outside to greet her dad, having seen him enter from the window. "Hey there, Kate," cried Nick, hugging her. He looked up and smiled at his mother standing in the doorway of the house. "Thank you for coming again." She smiled warmly and nodded. She hugged her son and granddaughter goodbye, and then she got into her car. "Ready to go have some fun?" asked Nick. "Of course. What are we going to do?" she answered curiously. "You will have to wait and see. For now, get in the truck." Kate smiled and hopped in the back seat of the pickup. Once she was buckled up, Nick drove off down the mountain and headed towards the town. The little girl sat patiently watching the passing scenery and wondering where Nick was planning on going. A little bit of time passed when Nick pulled into the parking lot in the outskirts of Glowing Springs and spoke, "We're here." Kate looked up to see where they had arrived. They were at a mini golfing place. "I love miniature golfing," she said excitedly. "I will beat you, Dad, this time, unlike last time when you won by 3. "We'll have to see about that," Nick challenged. Kate chose the red ball and Nick chose the blue ball, as always. They walked over to hole 1. All that has to be done for this hole is to hit the ball perfectly straight. Kate put her ball down and prepared to take the shot. Just as she went to hit it, she slipped. The ball went off towards the right. Then it hit the wall and bounced off towards the left. The ball reconciled off of the left wall and up to approach the hole, but went right past it by 3 inches. Once again, the rolling sphere smacked the right wall and went straight towards the only rock in the course. The ball repelled off and went in the hole. "That's how professionals do it," Kate teased as if she was an expert. "You think you are so great, but leave it to me, the professional that was your mentor and taught you my amazing skills," responded Nick in the same tone. Inside, he was shocked. Kate still got a hole in 1 after going all over the course. He carefully took his aim and hit his ball perfectly straight. The blue ball went around the rim of the hole and right in. Kate rolled her eyes, followed by a half-sarcastic smile. At the sea of paper, Tahra climbed out of the cool, clear stream. She wrung out her dripping hair and started on her way back to the shelter. She looked up at the sky and saw some dark clouds starting to come into the view of the sky. "I better strengthen my shelter," declared Tahra, thinking ahead. On her way back, Tahra collected sticks, leaves, and bark. Once Tahra got back to her shelter, she began adding more sticks to make the structure a little stronger in case of heavy winds, which often came with storms. Then she weaved the bark in and out of the sticks to keep the inside warmer and to add structure. Tahra took the leaves and patched any holes so the inside would not get wet. After that, she went looking for more material, which was vines and a large piece of bark. Meanwhile, Beth was still sitting in the same traffic she was in at 1 o'clock. It was now 2 o'clock. Beth was watching the beautiful puffy white clouds float across the painted blue sky. They seemed to be moving at a steady pace, much like jellyfish drifting in the steady sea current. The sun was often behind the clouds, but Beth could see its bright glow lighting up the cloud it was behind. At least this time she had more to admire than drops of rain and an overcast gray sky. It was something to keep her mind distracted from the whispers in her ear that threatened to torment her at every second. Back at the golfing place, Nick and Kate were still golfing, but almost finished. Hole 18, the very last one. Let's see if you really are a pro, Kate. If you really are a pro, you'll get your ball in the winning hole with no problem. I'm the best here. I could even do it with my eyes closed. I will surely get my ball directly in the hole, taunted Nick, sounding better than anyone else, even though Nick never even came close to getting his in the winning hole. He remembered Beth had when they were still dating, and he claimed it was only because he was with. Now she teases him every time they go, and she asks him why he can't get his ball in. Nick, of course, blames it on her and claims she is his bad luck charm. Kate put her red rose ball down on the mat. She stood up straight, took position, and prepared to swing with a ton of determination. Kate hit her ball perfectly straight, but a little too hard. The ball went up the hill and jumped the hole. It then hit the back fencing and repelled back, heading towards the hole. The small red sphere ran around the edge of the hole and in. I told you I was a pro at golf, Kate boasted, although only teasing. She was having way too much fun being sarcastic. She wasn't showing how happy she was that she actually got it in. Honestly, Kate didn't think she would get her ball in. Perhaps, like her mother always said, maybe Nick was also her good luck charm. Nick rolled his eyes. You got lucky by using the barriers to bounce off of and into the hole. I'm the real and best professional here. I'll get my ball right in the hole without using the wall. Nick carefully took his aim, even though he knew he would fail, as always, but Nick needed to have hope. Maybe Beth was his bad luck charm, and he would be able to get his ball in today, without her around. Nick's ball went up the hill at a perfect 180-degree angle. It was a perfect shot. The ball was headed towards the hole. However, he hit his ball too light. The ball came rolling back down the hill and went in a hole that wasn't the winning hole. Kate received a free pass and a small golfing trophy for getting her ball in the winning hole. Then Nick remembered a time when Tahra was younger and before Kate was born, when they went golfing at another place. It was her first time she ever went golfing, and she was not very good at it, obviously. Her ball was all over the course, and Tahra often hit it too hard and it went flying. A few times it even went out of the course. Fortunately, Tahra had not hit anyone. However, at the one hole, Nick stood at the end of the course. Not the wisest thing to do with crazy swing Tahra. Well, again she hit her ball way too hard, and poor Nick became the target and the ball hit as hard as a rocket. Nick collapsed to the ground and Tahra kept apologizing. He looked up to Beth for help, but she was too busy laughing. Of course she did eventually go over to him and see that he was all right and helped him up. On the last hole somehow, Tahra was able to get her royal purple ball in the winning hole. Beginner's luck, Nick had concluded. He remembered how happy she was and the glow in her eyes. She talked about that non-stop for the next week. He wished he could see her shining smile once again, and he wanted her to be there with them now, having so much fun, and see Kate make the winning shot. Kate could see his happiness was fading away and knew he was deep in thought, soon to be trapped in thoughts. She figured he was missing Tahra more in remembering a time golfing with her, so she nudged him. Nick shook his head to clear his thoughts and smiled, though it was weak. He reminded himself they were here to clear their heads and relax and not worry about their problem. While all of this was happening, Tahra took the vines she found and tied the shelter together again to give it extra strength in case of other vines weren't strong enough. She used the big piece of bark as a door to keep the rain from blowing in and to keep the inside a tiny bit warmer on the cooler nights. Tahra wondered why she hadn't thought to make these improvements sooner. She sighed, missing the comforts of home, but at least at the same time, this was kind of fun. At least until she had run out of things to do, then she would have to come up with more. As Tahra was doing that, Kate and Nick sat at a table eating ice cream while Nick added up the golfing scores. Well, Kate, I have the total number of strokes, and of course, who the grand champion is. As you probably guessed, I won. I had 62, and you, well, 61, informed Nick, although he hated to admit Kate won. I told you I was a pro, replied Kate. You only bet me because on hole 13 you got your ball in with a 2, whereas I got a 3. Besides, you only got lucky, and well, guess I am out of practice. There is no way you will beat me next time, Nick explained, defending himself. On the road with Beth, the time was 2:30 and the cars began to move faster. Well, an hour and a half is a little better than 2 hours, Beth claimed, a little relieved and trying to remain cheerful and positive. However, it was still a pain to have wasted so much time not moving far at all, especially since she watched the other side zip by. She wished their side of the road was free moving as over there, but of course she was stuck in the jam. She was grateful, though, that the cars were picking up speed, even if it took a long while. Back in Glowing Springs, Nick and Kate finished their ice cream and were now climbing back in the truck. Now we are going to the big arcade in town. We will have a contest to see who can get the most tickets, stated Nick with courage that he would win this contest, even though he wasn't much of a gamer. He was by far more of an outdoor type person. He would choose a hike in the woods any day over a game or anything else inside. But if it was with his dear family, he didn't care. Kate smiled and then spoke, I am a pro at golf after all. I came in first, and I will beat you in the arcade as well. Having competition made it more fun for the two of them and gave them something other than Tahra to focus on. Hopefully it would give them a new way to look at the situation, perhaps even give them an idea of how to find her. We'll have to see about that. I am older and have much more experience and practice. Yeah, but that doesn't matter. I am the youngest, but compared to you, I have the smartest mind. Nick didn't bother to respond back because he knew Kate would come up with something else to counter with. A little later in the arcade, Nick walked over towards the game. He stopped to watch Kate playing another game. She got the jackpot of 100 tickets. That's an easy game. Anyone could win the jackpot, Nick claimed, walking over to Kate. She stepped back to let her dad have a try. He got 4 tickets, and Kate began busting up with laughter, although only to tease him. Again he tried, unwilling to give up so easily. Then he got 2 tickets. He thought, 3rd time's a charm, so here I go. Once more he got 2 tickets. I thought you said it is easy and anyone could get the 100 tickets, protested Kate, sarcastically with a smirk. Nick stepped aside and gestured for her to give it a go. Kate put a token in, and with one push of the button, the ball was dropped. The ball bounced out of the jackpot hole and bounced around a little. Then it went in the jackpot hole, and Kate received her 100 tickets. She looked at her dad with a look that said, see, I am the best. He rolled his eyes, but inside he was surprised. Somehow, Kate had realized how to get the timing for it just right on. Before he had gotten the ball in the hole, but today was just not his day. Nick wondered how far Beth had gotten so far and figured there was no way she was having bad luck on the road as he was here. More than anything, he wished his wife was by his side to boost him and restore him. For her, he remained strong when inside he was shattering without Tahra. It was difficult for him to put on his armor and hold his feelings back without her around. I wish finding Tahra was as easy as this game is for you to hit the jackpot, sighed Nick, ruining a happy moment. The whole point of today was to refresh their minds, but of course it is impossible to keep their precious Tahra off their minds. Kate had been thinking for the whole time, but didn't want to destroy the good moments. Yeah, I wish that too, replied Kate sadly. I wonder what happened to her. I do not know, but it is very strange that she disappeared the way she did, especially since it was so sudden and with no trace of her anywhere. I mean, no one knows anything at all. It's very mysterious, he agreed. She was here one moment and gone the next, added Kate, and her father nodded. Then they decided to stop talking about it and continued having fun, or at least trying to. While all of that was happening, Tara sat in her shelter thinking it would downpour any second. The sky was becoming cluttered with dark gray poofy clouds. She came out of her shelter and gazed up at the sky. As far as she could see was a well put together large dark blanket. Behind the clouds was a hidden pale blue sky. Just then a drop of rain landed on Tara's hand. Slowly the clouds released tiny droplets, making it drizzle. She quickly got up and went in her shelter and closed the back door. Once she was in, the clouds let loose. The simple little drizzle became a downpour. She was glad it had waited until she got in her shelter where she could be dry. At the same time, Kate found her dad in the arcade playing a game she had gotten the 100 tickets from. This time, he received 6 tickets. "I see you haven't got the jackpot yet," Kate teased, but kept her voice calm and serious. "No, but I will," he claimed determinedly. Nick looked over Kate and saw her pockets were stuffed with tickets and more in her hand. Curious, he asked, "How many tokens do you have left?" Kate responded, "None, I'm out. How about you?" 6, but you may have these 3, offered her father. "Thanks, Dad," Kate replied, thankful to her dad's generosity, and hurried off to go play another game. Kate had to put her tickets in the ticket counter machine, and it came out Kate had 600 tickets, and Nick had 337. He gave his tickets to his daughter, giving her a total of 937. As they were walking to the counter, they happened to find a printed out number of tickets, 63. No one was around, so Kate picked it up. At the counter of prizes, Kate decided to get a beautiful necklace, which happened to be 1,000 tickets. It was the birthstone of May, emerald, and a chain of the color of gold. Nick looked at Kate strangely. "It's for Tahra," explained Kate. He smiled and then said, "That is very thoughtful of you. I know when she comes home she'll love it." Kate nodded in agreement. Then he began to think, what if she doesn't come home ever? "I wish I had the answers I needed. Why is it taking us so long to find her? I'll never forgive myself if I'm at fault." Kate could once again see he was drifting too far into sad thoughts, so she gently nudged him. He snapped out of it and looked down at her with a faint smile. She returned the smile even though she too missed Tahra and was terrified she wouldn't return. She knew the worst thing she could do was make her dad worry more, so she kept quiet. Meanwhile, the rain was still pouring down on the stick shelter. Tahra was relieved that her reinforcements kept the water from entering, which almost made it like a mini house. She sat there quietly, listening to the music the rain played ever so gently, even though it wasn't truly peaceful. Tahra enjoyed the sound of the rain, and it was distracting her from where she had made her feel like she was at her own home with her family, only a room away. On the road for the last hour, the cars had been moving at their normal pace. However, now at 3:30, the cars slowed down once again. "I can't believe this. Not more traffic," complained Beth, getting annoyed and losing her last bit of hope and patience. She was tired of getting stuck in every traffic jam there happened to be that day and making what felt like no progress. Beth smiled to herself as she realized Nick must be her lucky charm, and without him, all bad luck fell upon her. She knew she needed Nick, and he needed her, and today she wished nothing more than to be in his arms safe and sound. Beth pictured Nick's dark blonde hair and his tight, bear hug grip. She remembered all the times the 4 of them had sat together on the couch, and wished that could be them now. Beth let her mind wander to the times lying in bed with her husband by her side, as he would finger-comb her super soft, silky black hair, which would lay a few inches below her shoulders. She loved those quiet times alone with Nick or either of her children, and always needing someone to be at her side. Beth hated it when she was left alone. Sure, sometimes she needed to get away and be alone in complete silence, but not now. The reason for that was because of losing her parents so young. It really destroyed her. Being alone, she became unbearable, and now she heavily relied on having company. She could take the silence no more, so Beth turned on the radio. Most days, there were no good songs playing, and she would often forget to bring her favorite CD with. She flipped through about 50 different stations, and they were either weather reports, more accidents, or songs she couldn't stand. Beth came to the conclusion silence wasn't that bad and better than anything on the radio, so she clicked it off. She sat there in the silence for a few minutes, but each second it grew quieter and felt like it was closing in on her. It was starting to drive her crazy, so Beth tried tapping on the armrest, but that was only making things worse. At this time, Beth happened to be driving through a small town, and she decided a break and an escape captivating the silence. Plus, she could stretch her legs. Beth stood on the sidewalk and listened for any sound, but even the birds were really quiet. Then, out of nowhere, cheerful, upbeat music began playing. Beth couldn't help but to follow the melody. She turned around a corner and was surprised to see a little spring festival taking place. For a few minutes, Beth walked around and got talking to some of the local residents. They were all so friendly and cheerful, which was a good thing because their positivity was helping to lift Beth's mood. It felt good to be around other people after hours of driving alone. It really was a fun little festival, and Beth wished she could stay for more than a few minutes. She ended up staying close to a half an hour. Hearing voices beside her own helped her to relax and calm down. Beth was fascinated by the music the band was playing, as it was not typical music played on the radio. She had asked one of the locals what type of music they were playing, and the local informed Beth it was Irish. Before leaving the little spring festival, Beth picked up the soundtrack. Beth walked back to where her car was parked. As she approached, she could see the cracked bumper and the broken taillight on the left side. She chuckled to herself as she remembered how it had gotten that way. She remembered it was one day in the summer, and she was on vacation with Nick, Tahra, and Kate, and her aunt and uncle. Her uncle drives a bus as his job and drove most of the way to Massachusetts, even though they had taken turns. When they arrived at the place they were going to stay, they checked in the office and gathered their suitcases out of the back of the car. Everyone except for Beth's uncle and her aunt headed to their rooms. Her aunt and uncle were going to find a spot to park the car. Her uncle was driving and her aunt was watching the vehicle, making sure it would not back into anything as it backed into the space. She was standing on the right of the car as Beth's uncle was backing the car up. All of a sudden, a loud, awful sound of metal bending was heard. At once, he stopped the car and went to go see what had happened. The car had went back too far and bent the railing poles and cracked the bumper. Part of the left taillight was also broken. Beth's uncle felt really bad and let it hang over his head the rest of the day. No one else was upset and kept telling him accidents happen. They even made light of the whole situation and started calling her uncle Bumper Boy. They teased him saying he could drive a big bus, but not a small car. For the entire vacation, they kept bringing up Bumper. On birthday cards, they all wrote Bumper Boy on instead of his name. Months later, they still never let go of it, and still would joke about it. Now, whenever Beth looks at the bumper of her car, she smiles and remembers the whole thing. First thing Beth did as soon as she got back in her car was put her new CD in. It was so lively and upbeat, it was definitely far better than silence. She once again continued on her journey to New York. Beth was finally feeling better and starting to cheer up. Perhaps now that her day had turned around, it was a sign that Tahra had returned home and Tahra was adding the sunshine to her day. Beth could only hope Nick and Kate had found Tahra. She smiled to herself, hoping more than anything that was the truth.